welcome to Season 4 of AIHA's podcast series, The Healthy Workplaces Show, where we explore timely and informative topics about occupational and environmental health and safety. I'm your host, Alejandro Castillo. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with the AIHA President Bradley King. Based in Denver, Bradley King is a senior industrial hygienist for the Western States Division of the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health. Since 2002, he has been an environmental health officer in the U.S. Public Health Service, currently holding the rank of captain. He has 25 years of experience in comprehensive industrial hygiene. Bradley has received a bachelor's degree in biological science from Loyola University, New Orleans, a master of public health from St. Louis University, and a PhD in environmental health sciences from the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health. Today, we'll explore highlights from Bradley's recent trip to Argentina for the 10th Pan American Congress of Occupational Health and the 5th Argentine Congress. During the event, he delivered a lecture on guiding the American Association of Hygienists toward innovation and discussed how these efforts are influencing occupational health practices across South America. We'll also hear key insights and takeaways from Bradley's participation in the 2025 AIHA delegation to Chile, including what he learned from engaging with local professionals and organizations. Bradley, thank you for joining us today.
Sure, thanks for having me.
Let's get started. What were your first impressions when you arrived in Cordoba, Argentina for the 10th Pan American Congress of Occupational and Environmental Hygiene and the 5th Argentine Congress?
Yeah, so thanks for the question. This was actually my first time visiting South America, anywhere in South America, so I was really thrilled to be able to join some of our colleagues in Cordoba for this conference. Cordoba is a huge, beautiful, historic city, the second largest in Argentina after Buenos Aires. So it was a great opportunity to see its historic sites and to meet with a bunch of occupational and environmental health professionals from across the continent. I really want to give a hats off to AIHRA, which is the Association of Occupational and Environmental Hygienists of the Argentine Republic, as well as their organizing committee of the conference. They did a tremendous job in the organization of it, and it was a really successful Congress. So the Pan American Congress actually rotates around Latin America every couple of years, and so AIHRA was a great host to hundreds of attendees from around Argentina as well as Latin America. I just have to say I was really proud to represent AIHA there and have the chance to network with several leaders of national occupational hygiene associations from around Latin America, as well as many others who were there and work in the area of worker health and safety. So true to their reputation, they greeted me with great warmth and welcomed me there. I was really grateful for that. What I found interesting was they expressed a lot of gratitude, honestly, for AIHA being able to send a representative to be with them there at the conference. So I had a great time, and hopefully I'll have the opportunity to return sometime in the future.
Could you describe your experience presenting on leading the American Association of Hygienists toward innovation and its impact in South America? What reactions or discussions did your session spark?
Yeah, sure. So that was the title of the presentation that I gave that I thought focused on a couple of key areas that I thought would be interesting for the audience. And so the first area that I focused on was a review of the key future trends that AIHA has identified in a recent environmental scan that we did about a year and a half ago that was intended to help focus our association on what our educational and technical priorities should be in the near future related to the content that we produce. Some of these trends included changes in the way that information flows with impacts from social media, influencers, automated systems and sensors. Another thing was the shifting workforce, including demographic, cultural changes that are happening that will impact OEHS, like remote work, the increasing numbers of women in both education and science, and the impact of retiring baby boomers on the workforce in general, and our profession specifically. Another theme was the impact of 21st century health, with focuses on things like climate change-driven issues like heat stress, wellness and work schedules, workplace violence, things like that. Another trend that I mentioned was the increasing politicization of science, including issues related to public doubts about science, impacts of polarized politics. And then lastly, of course, one of the big trends was the practice of industrial and occupational hygiene in an AI world. So I also followed up those general trends with work that AIHA is doing internationally. And this work mainly centers through the work that our International Affairs Committee is doing, as well as our International Ambassadors Program, our Emerging Economies Microgrants Program, as well as the support that we give to OHTA, which is the Occupational Hygiene Training Association, which is also a great resource in international locations to bring greater opportunities for training OEHS professionals, particularly in countries that don't have a lot of traditional training programs available. So it was really great to highlight these themes and trends that will be impacting, or that we've identified will impact us as OEHS professionals in the US, as well as some of the international work that could impact some of the folks that I had a chance to present to. And so, I think the reaction that I got from these topics that I covered indicated a couple of things. One is that the trends that we found for AIHA here in the United States are really not just issues that we are dealing with here in our country, but these were things that people told me are trends that are happening in their countries as well and around the globe that everybody is grappling with. It was really great to see so many of the sessions that were there at the conference that were focused on issues related to the impact of and the incorporation of technology into OEHS practices. So this is definitely something everyone has a lot of interest in, and it was a major source of information and topics that were covered in the conference. And then also, I was just really pleased to see how well regarded our work at AIHA is internationally. Many of our products have been translated to Spanish and Portuguese for use in countries across Latin America. And again, I was reminded regularly of how often these products are used. And so I think it really reinforced how important it is for AIHA to be a continuing leading voice and resource for OEH practitioners around the world.
Now, you participated in a panel focused on occupational hygienists of the 21st century. How are emerging issues like ethics, big data, and information disclosure changing what it means to do this work today?
Yeah, so that panel was a panel discussion with myself and three other subject matter experts from around the globe. We had representation from a speaker from Brazil, someone from the Netherlands, another AIHA member, Kyle Naylor, who works internationally in this area as well. So it was a great discussion about these topics. And, I mentioned in my previous question that, AI and big data and technologies are all topics that we are all gonna have to become more knowledgeable on and comfortable with. It's clearly not going away. And so the things that I emphasized in my panel about these issues were really the need for industrial hygienists to clearly keep the ethics of incorporating these technologies really in the forefront of their minds. And so whether this is planning for the implementation of these technologies or in the implementation themselves, we really, we've recognized that there are a lot more tools at our disposal that are becoming available, which is great. But we need to continue to, keep the ethics of how we are using these new tools in the forefront. We especially need to continue to remind ourselves to keep the worker the center of all of the work that we're doing. That doesn't change even with the incorporation of these new technologies. So, that continues to mean continuing communications with the workers about the implementation of these technologies, getting their feedback, incorporating their feedback into the ways in which you're, making changes, and really just truly listening to them and their concerns is going to be instrumental in this process and in these big changes that we're going through. Likewise, I reinforced that I think that partnerships will really be key, and for us to be thinking about those partnerships and how to better implement those. And whether that's partnerships with the workers themselves, but it could mean partnerships with data scientists and companies, but also, people like HR and, of course, management themselves. So AIHA, I think, recognizes the need for our members to continue to grow in this area. And so we hope to continue to provide valuable resources for continuing education in these technologies. And of course, we'll remain focused on them to help assist our members in advancing their skill sets, which I think is going to be necessary for all of us in the future.
Each year, the American Industrial Hygiene Foundation raises funds to support student scholarships for those pursuing a degree in industrial hygiene or occupational and environmental health and safety. Help us meet our goal. Can we count on your support? Scan the QR code to donate today.
Now, shortly after, you led AIHA's delegation to Chile. How did this opportunity come about?
Yeah, so this was actually the second year that AIHA has put together a delegation to offer our members a trip to an international location for an awareness raising and educational content. And so we had worked last year with a program called Citizen Ambassadors. This is organized by a nonprofit group by the name of Cultural Vistas, which is, I think, based out of Washington, D.C. And so AIHA worked with them last year and arranged a delegation visit to Vietnam, which was led by the president of AIHA at the time, Nicole Greason. This year, we decided to continue this as an opportunity that was made available to our members, and we were lucky enough to have Santiago, Chile, be selected as the country that we would be going to. Cultural Vistas as a program has contacts around the world, and their whole program is built around creating agendas for members of national associations to visit another country, to interact with counterparts in that country, to learn about what the infrastructure of, the topics of interest were, and to have an exchange of ideas between the AIHA delegation and the hosts in country. And so we were really fortunate that one of our members, John Baker, was able to introduce us to an environmental and labor lawyer who lives in Santiago, Chile, by the name of Miss Mindy Fuentes Jara. And she was able to actually use some of her contacts in Santiago to allow the Cultural Vistas program to create an agenda with contacts and really to get our foot in the door with organizations such as the Chilean Ministry of Health, Ministries of Labor, as well as what's called one of the mutual security associations. These associations in Chile provide comprehensive coverage for workplace accidents and illnesses, and they also help to develop risk prevention program across a variety of industries across Chile. And so, with these local contacts, we were able to have some really great visits and discussions and exchange of ideas. And, we were also able to visit a couple of work sites specifically, one in the mining industry, one in the construction industry, and we had an opportunity to talk with OEHS professionals at those sites. And it really gave a wonderful opportunity to learn how OEHS is practiced in Chile. What are some of the commonalities, differences between our two systems? And I was really grateful that I was able to share it with about 9 or 10 of our members who volunteered to be on the delegation with us.
Is there a particular work site that left an impression on you?
Yeah, so, we were, as I mentioned, we were able to visit both a mining site as well as a construction site. And, when we visited with both of them, we spent the first part of each of those two visits getting a chance to look at the work site, understand what was going on, understand what the main challenges were for some of the OEHS professionals that were, managing some of the worker health and safety programs. For me, the visit to Las Tortolas, which is a mining site outside of Santiago that processes copper and molybdenum, I believe. And so it was just a really interesting visit to see the work processes that were happening there, but also talk about how some of the worker health and safety programs are managed at a site like that, the challenges that they have, some of the similarities with the challenges that we have in managing those types of programs in that type of an environment here in the United States as well, challenges of training workers, things like that. So, at all the locations that we visited, it was really just impressive to see the work that they do. And I was very grateful for the opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. What were the key topics of discussion with your Chilean counterparts, and what discussion resonated most with you on the state of OHS globally?
Yeah. So, it was a really fascinating day to be able to spend with some of our colleagues at the Chilean Ministries of Health and Labor. They were really wonderful to give up most of a day to sit with us, to explain like the national policies and the structure of their occupational safety and health infrastructure, particularly as it relates to their regulatory infrastructure, as well as their workers' compensation and treatment systems for workers who suffer injuries and illness as a result of working conditions. And so, it was interesting. We had one AIHA delegation member who had been invited to give a presentation on direct reading instrument technology and video exposure monitoring. That was an interest of theirs that they wanted to hear more about. We had a conversation about, dealing with carcinogens in the workplace. One thing that I think really struck with me in the discussion, not only with folks on the governmental side, but also on, OEHS practitioners at work sites, was an emphasis on psychosocial and mental health amongst workers and how they are really integrating mental health and psychosocial support activities as part of risk management and risk reduction activities. So that was a little bit surprising because I don't think it's something that is talked about as much here in the United States, but something for which they, are really making concerted efforts there. So I was really impressed with that as an area.
AIHA Connect 2026 Advanced Registration is open. Register today to save your spot and secure the lowest rates available. Scan the QR code to register.
Let's have you look into the crystal ball of 2026. What issues do you see most pressing, or perhaps are areas that might not yet be on everyone's radar?
For 2026, of course, as I mentioned, the impact of AI, technology, that will continue to be a topic of interest and importance for 2026. That's not surprising. Additionally, I don't see a change in our need to stay atop all of the changes that are happening at both the federal and state governmental levels. This will be whether it's in regards to budgets that have not yet been finalized for fiscal year 2026 for our OEHS related agencies. Also, remaining questions about staffing of OEHS scientists and NIOSH in particular, as well as just ongoing changes to priorities in the legal landscape for standards, at the federal and the state level. So that will be continue to be a really huge effort and something of importance for AIHA moving into 2026. We will continue to be a voice of advocacy for our OEHS-related governmental science agencies, as well as funding, both for the agencies as well as for our university programs that offer the OEHS training that really is so important for our pipeline, for our profession. We will continue to use our government relations contractor, What Works Institute, to follow all of the changes, and we'll definitely keep all of our members updated as new information unfolds. One thing that I mentioned earlier that I think was really impressed with when we visited colleagues in Chile was this emphasis and the issue of psychosocial health and mental health. I really think that this will continue to grow as an area that we, as AHA members and profession in, industrial and occupational hygiene, will really need to grow our skills in and be better informed about. And, it's, I think, one of those areas that will continue to show its importance. I think this was recognized certainly as we were going through and in the immediate aftermath of COVID. But I think there's a lot that we can and should be doing in terms of learning about this as an issue and learning how we can better respond to it. And so I think that will also show its importance in 2026. I want to give a shout out to some of our members within the AIHA Social Concerns Committee, as well as like the Total Worker Health Advisory Group, who are really doing some great things in bringing greater awareness to this as an issue. I know that they're working on some communication products and guidance as we speak to help to further develop content for our members. So I certainly am looking forward to that when it's completed, because I do think that it's going to be an issue that will continue to maintain or grow in importance in 2026 and beyond.
Now, as we approach the end of this episode, is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners about any AIHA initiatives coming into 2026?
I can think of a couple things that I would like to share and that I am personally excited about. When we meet together on the board of directors at our meetings, at our quarterly meetings that we have, clearly we talk about what are some of the responses that we need to have related to a lot of the changes that are occurring in our profession and in government. And how can we turn these into opportunities? And so one of the things that I'm excited about is that the board of directors approved a really significant infusion of money into the 2026 Connect conference, which will be held in New Orleans the first week in June. We want to make sure that the Connect conference is the best that it can be, that our attendees and our exhibitors come away with it with a really wonderful experience, the best experience possible. And so we have approved a 3-year project to incorporate a number of really new initiatives that I hope will, be really positive for our conference. There's going to be changes related to the offering of a lunch that happens in the exhibit floor on one of the days. There's going to be a new emphasis on an executive and director level C-suite kind of symposium that's happening on one of the days to really focus some content on that group in particular. So I'm really excited about the opportunities that will afford our staff who help to manage our conference wonderfully. So thanks to Bethany Chirico for leading that effort on staff. And then also, one of the things that I'm also excited about is a new effort that we're going to be beginning in 2026. The board of directors approved the creation of a new advisory group that will be specifically focused on developing a capital fundraising campaign strategy for AIHF, which is the American Industrial Hygiene Foundation. With so many of the concerns related to the continued support, monetary support from the government for our academic programs and the potential for that to not necessarily be there in the future, we wanted to take some action now and create a more focused and strategic plan for how we fundraise for the foundation. We want to do everything possible to be able to provide, monetary scholarships for students to the greatest extent that we can, help support our faculty members in various ways. And so we thought that this was a really nice opportunity to potentially grow this area in ways that we haven't done in the past. And so, we will be sending out an open call for any members who might be interested in potentially participating in that effort. So be looking out for that in 2026. I think that could really prove to be a really wonderful opportunity to impact the future generation of OEHS professionals who, as we all know, education's not getting any cheaper. So the more that we can support these folks to get through their educational programs and support our faculty members, the better. So I'm really excited about that as an initiative in this coming year.
Bradley, thank you so much for joining us today.
You're quite welcome. Thanks for having me.
That wraps up today's episode of the AIHA's Healthy Workplaces show. To learn more, visit the AIHA website and follow us on social media. Thank you for tuning in, and as always, remember that healthy workplaces mean a healthier world. Until next time.